Good, because they can hear us now.
Board games, board games, board games.
All right, let's bring it in and hope it all works today. And we're going to turn this music down because last week was such a disaster. Hey, Internet, what's up? We're here.
We are present.
We have video in the proper format. I shut the
We
music
do.
off. I've hit record. Maybe the best podcast start we've ever had, even though we're
It's the
5 minutes
smoothest.
late.
Hey, that was smooth and the perfect way to start this.
And let's go ahead and give a big shout out for my test chats still being on screen. All right. So, podcast technical difficulties. Not too bad so far. Happy with this. Ryan, it's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Today is 4/20.
It is.
So
That means it is the 20th of April.
It is the 20th of April.
Not the 4th of the 20th month of the year for those who are overseas.
Yes, it is 4/20 for American stoners. It's also the 4/20 month because it's the 4th month in the 20th year. So it's 4/20.
It's also true.
And it's also my anniversary. So cheers. I'm drinking wine tonight to my wife for 7 years. So
I'm drinking a giant cup of water.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers to you.
A good peanut noir.
Pinot noir.
Peanut noir.
Peanut noir.
Pinot noir. Quite tasty. So, hey, wife. There she is. The lady of the hour, of the almost decade.
You're lucky she's put up with you all this time, right?
She's letting me do a podcast on anniversary day. So
that's a good point.
How could I not be the luckiest man in the world?
Thanks, Rebecca.
So yeah, it's a good day today. Even though we were locked in, we got steaks from Outback. They delivered, and we had a nice anniversary dinner with some wine.
It's very nice.
The kids were fairly well behaved, which was impressive for us. That's good. Other than that, how's your last 2 weeks been, Ryan? We've actually talked quite a bit this last 2 weeks.
We have. It's like somehow being stuck, in our homes, unable to do anything, has somehow encouraged us to somehow do things. It's weird.
Interact with each other.
Yeah. Go figure. I don't know. My 2 weeks have been pretty much like the last 2 weeks before that, which is to say, I sit here and I work at my desk from 8 till 5, and then I do nothing because that's my life. Although I guess I have been doing a lot of hikes because that's the only thing I can legally do outside right now. So
hikes are good. Fresh air, get some sunlight, boost that vitamin D in that immune system.
Got to make it happen. This weekend, I went on a couple hikes. Saturday, I went like 5.5, almost 6 mile hike, which was long but good. And then I went on a shorter one on Sunday. Yeah, nice thing of being in northern Michigan is you're never far from a place to just get out and walk around. So.
That's true. We tried to get out of the house on Saturday, and it was hurricane force winds.
Yeah, it was really windy on Saturday.
So we took the kids, and they have not really left the house hardly at all. I mean, they go in the backyard or whatever and run around, but we really have not left the house. So we loaded them all up in the car. We went and got some BK Lounge and headed to the school because we knew it would be pretty much abandoned, and they have like a little track there. And so we grabbed their scooters, and we are just going to let them like whip around the track. And yeah, we were out there for like a minute, and everybody gave up. Like, no, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. And we agreed. So we took them back. And on the way, we stopped and saw our friend Jenna.
Yay.
Whose nice subdivision was doing a zoo. So they had all these houses had like stuffed animals outside their houses. You would go to each one.
You could just kind of.
Yeah, they would be like in fake cages or whatever, but they had like facts about the animals. One had dinosaurs. It was great. I've never seen dinosaurs at a zoo before, so that was cool. And then, yeah, so we stopped and said hi to Jenna for a minute, and then rolled through the sub and then came home. And we really have not left the house since. So, other than the occasional grocery trip, face the COVID.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, yeah. Saturday it was really windy. Look, luckily where I went on my long hike was in the Brown Bridge area, which basically starts off, depending on which trailhead you're at, starts up on top of like a 300-foot, more or less drop off. And it was super windy there, but like we went down those stairs pretty much immediately and went in the valley down by the river. Wasn't so bad. It was cutting off the wind. But as soon as we got back up to the top, it was just, yeah, it was horrible. Very windy. Very windy.
Sounds terrible.
This is probably the most non-geeky beginning conversation we've had in one of these.
Well, I mean, when you can't get outside, and then when the chance you get to go outside, it's like the biggest news you can possibly think of.
Here's a big news. So I don't know if we've really talked about it on the podcast, but I happen to be a lover of roller coasters. And my brother and I, this last fall, when we went to Cedar Point for the first time in a little while, purchased season passes, platinum season passes for Cedar Fair, which means every park that Cedar Point's company owns, more or less, we have full season access to through last fall and all of this year. And they emailed me like a week ago saying that because of the delayed startups and everything for all of their parks, that not only will my season pass be good throughout all of this season once they actually do open, but they're extending it through all of next year as well.
Wowee.
Which is nice because I essentially get like 2.5 years of season pass
For the price of one?
for the price of one. Yeah.
Assuming that they open up
Assuming, I mean, they'll open up eventually. Like
next year. Just in time to close again when we get COVID-20.
probably. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they will open before the summer's up, as long as the states don't come down and say no way, Jose.
I am hopeful. I know that in our great state of Michigan, there has been a lot of protests and a lot of pressure from mayors for our dimwit governor. I'll just say it. She's awful. To open up the state. So it seems she has gotten that pressure, and she has started talking about possibly lifting some of that stuff more sooner than later. I'm hoping. So
I will. I think I've probably said this in a lot of different facets and probably not on here, but I will say that. Not on here. Maybe I don't want to say anything. I think that the worst part about the way that she has handled things isn't so much the fact that she put the state on lockdown, because pretty much every state has gone into lockdown of some sort. But she's come down with really inconsistent rules, and she talks really big about it. And it's kind of just this weird contrast because, like, unlike a lot of states, like in California, like they have people who are like getting arrested for being on the beach and stuff like that. And like nothing like that is happening in Michigan. Like she has really strict rules and basically told the state police and the sheriffs to be like, just don't really enforce anything too crazy. Like, and she's only really come down on businesses and let individuals
Yes.
more or less do what they want, which I think is actually a really great execution of things. But every time she gets up to talk, she basically sounds like a like a mother who just can't believe how ridiculous her children are. Is what she sounds like. And it's very if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with her, or especially if you're one of those people who are on like the far side of just like yelling for hanging or whatever. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually do that, but like just like wanting to recall or doing all the going off the extreme side, like to hear somebody just kind of be like, well, you people just don't know what's good for you. You just need to listen to me because I'm an authority figure is not really what's going to win them over. Right. And so I think the way she's handled it publicly has really been more of the issue than anything else, because there's a lot of ways you could have gone about doing this, even making the same choices and not had it just rub people as wrong as what this has.
She's part of the political elite, and they do look down on us like we're peasants.
I agree.
That's both parties. That's all governors. That's all senators. That's all presidents. As far as I'm concerned, that they all treat all of us like that, which is silly.
I agree with you. That is how they treat us all.
So there's that. So hopefully we'll be out and about soon. But because we haven't been, I think it's been pretty fun. So we can talk about this, I think, next.
Yes.
is you and I have now played a couple rounds of Gloomhaven
Gloomhaven.
via Tabletop Simulator.
Yes, we have.
We'll probably continue Thursday for
I'm
the
hoping
third
to.
round.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing it like tomorrow night or something in between too, but I don't know what everybody's schedule is like in our group.
I'm pretty much available every night after 8 o'clock, depending on when the kids go to bed. So
I am available at various times. It's not busy as I am. I feel like every night there's something going on. Um, whether it's my group of friends who have been playing Sea of Thieves, or whether it is the Bontraggers, that my family, all my cousins have always been big Civilization fans. And over Easter weekend, we finally, like halfway through this, started a giant multiplayer Civ game with each other. So that's kind of sitting on the back burner right now as well. So there's tons of things going on, but I want to play Gloomhaven. So
I also like and enjoy and want to play Gloomhaven as much as possible. So I'm down, but I know that can probably burn a lot of people out, and not everybody has all the time, but just with families and whatever else they're doing. But Thursday, I'm totally down. It sounds like most people were down for at least Thursday.
I think we'll do it at least Thursday. I'll probably put out some feelers tomorrow in the afternoon to see what people feel about tomorrow night. We'll see. It'll be nice to get past these first two because I feel like I have started playing this game with like 3 or 4 different groups of people, and like we always play those first 2 missions, and it's fun because it's a fun game in general. But it'll be nice to get into a bit of the deeper parts of it.
Yeah, so far this is the farthest I've been at. I think we've only ever played two. I don't
This
remember.
we played against the boss with the like little part that we did at your house like a year and a half ago, whenever that
Okay,
was.
so maybe we made three or whatever. But yeah, I'm hoping to get much farther than that. It's been
Yeah,
nice. I've only ever played the scoundrel, which is okay. I like that character. I'm excited to get a little farther and leveled up and get some of the perks going. And yeah, excuse me. And yeah, I'm really enjoying Gloomhaven. I would say the tabletop simulator experience is pretty good. I honestly thought it
yeah,
was going to be worse. It takes a little while to get used to the controls of how to like spin the table, zoom in and out, reset things.
hmm
It's not super intuitive, but once you start to get
no,
all the main stuff down, it's really not bad. And then the fact that somebody spent the time to script a lot of what Gloomhaven requires you to do
yeah,
has been super nice. Even on the first night, which we stayed up pretty late, but the first hour it took us all to get acclimated and get the deck set up and everything. Once things started moving, like it was real quick. It sets up the board for you, it sets out the
yeah,
monsters and the monster cards, and it does a lot of the work for you, which is the tedious part. It doesn't do everything. You still got to do a lot of manual pieces, but it gets rid of a lot of the tedious stuff, which is super nice because you can just kind of focus on playing the game and strategizing what you're going to do and read the story and pay attention to the. You're not spending the whole time trying to sort out little bits and cards and so.
yeah, yeah. That I mean, as much as I love the physical copy of it, enough so that of course I'm, as we talked about last time, I'm backing Frosthaven, um, and I've played the physical copy of Gloomhaven many times. But like it takes forever to set up, and like you almost have to know what scenario you're doing going into the gaming night, or what couple scenarios you might be doing, and having things set aside, or else just the setup time and teardown time can be like an extra 45 minutes onto your night, which is, this at least takes care of that, which is nice.
Yeah, that's been our biggest problem is because there was a little while that we started this cadence with you coming over, but it would be like we can't get started till 9, and then we don't usually stay up much past like midnight or 1. So like
And
only having a couple hours to really play the game, and then when it's an hour to set it up and an hour to take it down, you
yeah,
end up with like an hour or two of play at the most. And maybe if you're really rocking it, that's 2 scenarios, but that's pushing it, right?
that is not 2 scenarios. I'll
Well,
just tell you that right now.
I think we did the first night the beginner ones. Maybe we went a little longer than normal, but those ones didn't seem to take like super long. I'm sure they get worse as far as time goes. But
I mean,
regardless, the point is the setup time and the teardown of that game is psychotic. So unless you're going to have like a whole day where like you're going to set it up in the morning, you're going to play for 6 or 8 hours with a bunch of friends and like really haul through it,
Mhm.
Like it's hard to like keep that cadence. Unless, like you said, if you have if it's going to happen we'll say every Thursday night, you have friends coming over to play it, then you could preset the game up before they come over. But that's still a lot of work.
Apparently, my group of friends is presently playing Sea of Thieves without me. So thanks, guys. Thanks.
That's awesome. Sea of Thieves is great.
It is fun. It's a very good time.
That has kind of been the other thing you and I have played also. So apparently you have this group, but when you haven't been with them or they haven't been online, we've also been playing Sea of Thieves. So that's something I've put a little bit of time in. I think we talked about that in the last podcast. Not that anybody can watch that one because it's a shit show of audio problems and video.
We'll just go through everything we went through in our last podcast all over again because it was so bad.
We could talk about your Switch some because all of that is trumped by 12 minutes of audio problems. But Ryan, if you missed it,
bought a Switch.
Has a Switch, and we had like a 10-minute tirade about how Animal Crossing doesn't make any goddamn sense. And it was probably lucky that we got trumped by the audio because I'm sure the fanboys, because all of them will watch us, I guarantee.
I'm pretty sure you're already creating hate amongst people listening as you speak.
Will flame us to all ends of the earth. Listen, I don't judge you. You get on your game however you want to get it on, but I personally don't understand that game or why everybody loves it. But I also am not a Stardew Valley guy. Like I don't. These weird, chill, quasi RPG games are
It's really less of an RPG. Well, Stardew
Sims.
is kind of an RPG.
Yeah, Stardew is for sure.
Yeah, Animal Crossing is almost more of like a small town construction Sims type game,
right?
More so than RPG. But yeah.
With like Pokemon, like
they're just
collecting animals, like
yeah,
show them off for people. Yeah, that's all weird to me. But I get it. Get it on. It's all good. You do you. I won't judge too much.
Yeah. In counter to that, I just basically play Pokemon on mine all the time. So.
Yeah, we have one, and 90% of the time it's playing Mario Party, I would say right now. Kids like that. They also they played the hell out of just Mario Odyssey for a long time.
That is one that's still on my list to eventually buy, but I do not have.
And now all my kids love playing Fortnite. So I don't know where I went wrong as a parent. They all want to play Fortnite all the time. The girls love it, but they tend to want to go in like creative mode and just build houses and things, which is fine. It's cool. It's
sure.
And then Ethan, of course, wants to play. He goes back and forth between creative and like trying to build obstacle courses, and then wanting to actually go into matches and try to win things. And we play a lot. I will say that I am very sad at myself to some extent because I've actually been playing the latest season because in the latest season you can unlock a bunch of Deadpool stuff. So I've been a Deadpool fan since.
So you've been playing Fortnite
a long time. Yes. Well, I have the excuse my kids want to play, so I'm playing for my kids. It's not.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, I've been unlocking. We're in like week 10 or 11 or something of this challenge. So I've got all the Deadpool stuff unlocked. I got his alternative without his mask, so he's all ugly. And then there's an X-Force gray and black like alternative to his suit. I got all that unlocked. And then the worst thing ever happened the other day. They launched a skin pack that had Domino, of course, Cable, of course, which I love Cable, and then one of the first like really awesome X-Men that I've always loved, which is Psylocke, who's kind of obscure, but she was in the latest movie, right? So
yeah. Well, she was in the Apocalypse one. I don't think she was in the latest one.
Yeah. She wasn't in the Phoenix one. She was in Apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
So big fan. Mostly of the last two, Domino's, whatever. So, but to get them with all of their kit, it was on sale for like $40, which is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money
to spend on skins in Fortnite. And I'm going to say this with all the shame in the world.
Oh no!
I bought it. I bought all.
Oh no!
I bought all the skins and I bought all the collector tools, and so I have all of that Marvel stuff unlocked.
Way to feed the system.
I know, it's quite terrible.
Way to feed the system.
For something that outside of this event, I've probably played like 10 hours a month of. And I don't usually go in for that stuff, but some of those things I'm big fans of, and it's been fun to run around as Cable or Deadpool or Psylocke as my kids are playing and just have fun with it. So it's gross. I feel gross. I took like 3 showers after blowing $40 on skins in Fortnite, but it is what it is.
It it is what it is. It's true.
So other than Fortnite and playing the good old Gloomhavens, which I really have enjoyed. So if anybody's watching, if you haven't played Gloomhaven, it's a blast. It's probably a little boring to watch, but if you go back to my VODs on Twitch, both of our games are up there so far. I might pull those down actually and keep a copy of them. I don't know if I'll put them on YouTube. Maybe I'll cut them up and make like highlight reel. But Thursday night we'll be playing again. So if you want to tune in, we can answer questions and you can see what we're doing and whatever, like chat with us while we're playing. It's a good time. It's really fun. And if you already know what it is, but you want to play with your friends that can't see them, Tabletop Simulator, that script thing is pretty good. If I remember, I'll try to put the link to the script in the workshop on Steam, or the one we're
I
using.
will say this: be careful what you delete when you delete it.
Yes.
Because we have a save state now, and originally there was a copy of the manual in the box, and I think I left it in the play area when I cleaned up the map, which deletes everything. And now we don't have a manual in the game anymore, which is fine because I own it and I have the physical manual, and you can find PDF versions online and stuff pretty easy. But it was kind of handy to just have it all right there.
Yeah, the one thing about the script is it doesn't handle you screwing with it very much. Like,
yeah, if you don't do
resetting
what's
characters
intended,
is not super intuitive in case you screw something up. Like you said, we lost the manual. Like,
there are things.
just be careful.
It is by no means a professionally programmed add-on. It is a user created thing, and it's very good, but it is not perfect in every way.
We kind of found out in the last round too that it's very advantageous for you to use the built-in notepad or keep a second text editor open somewhere where you can write down your experience. And because once you're done and you pack everything up, one of our players' character got screwed up. We had to reset their character all the way from scratch too. So
which, it only being the second mission, wasn't too bad,
right?
But if that happened, like 20 scenarios in, that could be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, so try to keep track of your character sheet outside of the game, because even though it saves state and we can come back to it, it's really brutal if all of a sudden you lost your character sheet information. You got to try to remember all the perks you had, all the check marks, all the experience, all the items you were carrying, your retirement mission. Like, brutal. But it's super fun. We've been having a blast with it. Personally, even without the lockdown, it actually helps me a lot because I don't tend to get out of the house a whole lot even without the lockdown. So I wouldn't mind even once the lockdown's lifted to carry
Just
on
keep going
playing
with
through
it.
with. And I know like BJ probably doesn't come over to Travers to be able to play that stuff often, so I'm sure he would be game too to be able to play without having to travel on a regular basis. So
Yeah, no, I imagine that with this group, we'll probably try to keep it going at least somewhat regularly. I don't know if it'll be a weekly thing when everything comes back to normal, but
sure,
certainly often enough that we can keep moving with it. It may
just
be
once
even
in a
weekly.
while. As long as it's not so far apart that I completely forget what the heck we've done over the last and have to like kind of remember everything, but because that's a real problem that we've faced.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to come over and start this whole Clank thing.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. So one of the things which goes into like I think COVID's my fault because I finally, after teasing for months about buying the stuff to be able to record or at least stream a board game night, we finally got all the bits and pieces. It's all like in a box down here, and I have stuff, garage or whatever, ready to go. And like I finally had it, and all of a sudden lockdown starts.
It is definitely your fault.
So we have not been able to get together to actually test this out and try it since the lockdown. But once it is lifted, I am very happy on a Saturday or Friday night, whatever night works the best. Come over and do start it all out, and we'll set up the streaming rig and we'll wing it. We'll do it live. See if we can get it rolling. I think
Yeah,
it'll be very fun.
I agree.
Board. I guess we're still on board games a little bit. I haven't really played anything. I bought the Terraforming Mars on Steam and played through the tutorial.
That's about as far as I made it.
Yep.
Through the tutorial. Like, oh, all right, there you go. This kind of reminds me of how it works. All right, there we go.
Yep. Yeah. So other than that, I haven't been playing any other. No new video games. No new board games. That's pretty much all the gaming I've been doing. So.
Um, pretty much the only additional gaming I've been doing, which probably hasn't necessarily been in the last 2 weeks so much as in the last, well, maybe in the last 2 weeks. But with the Gamer Pass on Xbox, I've got access to Tekken 7 and the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or whatever the current newest one is.
Oh my God! Some fighting games.
Some fighting games. And I've been playing through those a little bit, not a ton, but just when I'm sitting around with nothing to do, and really not since I've gotten the Switch. So yeah, not in the last 2 weeks. But prior to those 2 weeks, I was playing quite a bit of those. And I forgot how much I really like Tekken.
Tekken's great. Tekken was
Like,
probably my favorite. Tekken
like,
Tag Team specifically.
sure. Which the last Tekken before the present one was Tekken Tag Team 2, which I never played, but certainly I like the idea of it. And like, yeah, there's something about Tekken that it's just a different mindset that goes into it than the other fighting games. Like Capcom, of course, has its like 6-button, like light, medium, heavy punch, light, medium, heavy kick. And then things like Dead or Alive just kind of have like a 2 or 3 button attack plus, what was it, like jump? I don't even remember. I think it was like a 3-button system with Dead or
Dead
Alive.
Alive was pretty simplistic, but it was
It was.
still intricate enough to like really have some fun bouts. We played a ton of Dead of Alive back in the day. Even
Yeah.
me and Levi, like that was our famous game for shots. Like whoever took the match, the other person had to drink, and those degraded really quick.
I believe that, because that game
But
you can just button mash and still
yeah.
be amazing, which kind of works for drinking, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah, I would say the Dead or Alive ceiling cap isn't as high as far as skill, right? Like at some point, no matter how good you are, somebody that can button mash a little bit might be able to keep up and have a chance. Versus things like Tekken, there's a level like you can take the skill ceiling a lot higher. And then I don't know, would you say the Capcom games are even higher? Because they're almost like you're almost counting pixels in those games, like Street Fighter games and stuff.
Yeah, Capcom is, I feel like it's in some ways more simplistic than Tekken, but more technical at the same time, in the sense that like there's a very strict, simple rule set to the way the characters interact in Street Fighter games and stuff like that. Whereas Tekken, a lot, like, it's very technical in the way that you do it. Like, it's got left punch, right punch. Basically, you have your 4 limbs are your 4 buttons.
Right.
And each character has a very a lot of different moves that you can pull off that in those ways. So there's more options to Tekken. It feels that way anyways. Whether it's technically true or not, I don't know, but it feels that way.
Yeah, I always felt there was that. Yeah, I describe it the same way, but I never felt that it was. I don't know. I always felt with the Street Fighter type games that there was that weird, like, if you were a god, nobody could touch you type of a thing. Where Tekken, it felt that way a little bit, but I mean, I was never super good at it, but I could hang, and I always felt that there was always a chance that I could keep up with even the best people that I ever played. I don't know. It was good. The middle ground for me, the absolute epitome of fighting games to me, was in the arcade, actual at Pocket Change. All those lunch times we went over on college and spent way too much money on arcade games, specifically Tekken Tag Team, and then going home and playing it on the PlayStation at Steven's house like over and over and over. Like, we dumped a ton of time into that game. But it wasn't just that nostalgia factor. It was that it was so balanced with, like,
I mean, at that point
you
for
could
us, it
be
wasn't
new, but you could
nostalgia.
be an expert. And yeah, and at the time we were playing it because it had that really nice. It was approachable, but it also had a pretty decent skill ceiling, so that you could improve quite a bit, which was super fun.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I want to say his name was Jeremiah,
the Pocket Tunes guy.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
trying
I
to tell
remember the
people
guy.
about.
I don't remember if that was his name, what his name was, but I remember him. Yeah.
I want to say that was his name, and I want to say that dude was the quintessential kind of like arcade alpha male.
Pretty much. It's a
So
good way of
like
describing it.
in any normal situation, there's no alpha to be seen for days. But that kid, like, and he was, I think he was probably older than us. Maybe
Yeah, I
it
think
was
he was like
close.
at least few years older than us.
But he worked there, and Tekken Tag Team was his jam, and he even went to like some tournaments, if I recall. And he always liked to show off on us. But what was the nice thing is if we were playing him, he would like hit the machine for us and give us a bunch of credits. And all you had to
Sometimes,
do, sometimes, not all the time, but if
sometimes,
he
but
was playing you and he was showing off, he would like let you play for free, and he would just be like next, next, next. And the best times I remember is if we could get somebody like Steven was pretty good at remembering all the 10 hit combos and
mhm.
how to break them because he's a freak like that and can remember all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if we could get Steven to like break one of those combos and accidentally like beat him, like he'd get mad and, oh, I gotta go to work, and then we'd have like 30 or 40 credits sitting on the machine.
It wasn't very often that happened, but it
No,
did happen once or twice,
I
and it was
remember at
great.
least a couple times that he got pissy and ran off after he dumped a bunch, because he would just open the machine and there's a place where that quarter hits the machine, and he
Yeah,
just
he
hit
just
that a bunch of
ding, ding, ding,
times
ding. Yep.
and then give enough credits and then reclose the box up, and so we'd get to sit there and play for a little while for free until it ran out. But yeah, that guy was something else. And I remember
Yeah,
the one time we were coming back from exactly doing that. Remember the guy that hit the car with the beer bottle?
yeah, I
So
do remember
we were
that.
turning on. We were coming back from the
Was
arcade to
that
go
in the
back to college.
Thunderbird,
I want to
or was that the Monte
say it
Carlo?
was
It
in
was
the
the Monte
Monte
Carlo.
Carlo because I
Yeah.
bought that my senior year as we were graduating. And like I merged into the turning lane, and he got out of the car and approached us, and then saw a car full of dudes and walked away. And then like we turned the corner, and somewhere down the road, he like drove up next to us and broke a
Like,
beer bottle against the side of our car, and then jetted across like 4 lanes of traffic in front of a beta bus into a subdivision, like ditched off. I was like, what the hell just happened? I still to this day have
it,
zero understanding. I must have cut him off somehow that I
it
never.
was. I mean, it was turning left into a left-hand turn lane that is always full of people trying to turn left and people kind of coming in late.
That's a very
And
busy
so like,
intersection for our town.
I mean, is it possible that you like came over in front of him when he wasn't expecting you to? Yes, but should have he expected it, because that's kind of like whether you were in the right or in the wrong, that's the sort of thing that happens there all the
Right.
time. And like there's no reason for him to like go off unhandled.
And
But
it's possible with all four of us or three of us in the car, I was a little distracted, but I'm usually pretty attentive when I drive. And I don't
sure,
remember ever
sure.
doing like, usually as soon as I do something stupid, I'm like, oh shit. And I remember like, I accidentally cut you off. Sorry, bud. But I don't
No.
remember that guy at all. So,
No, that I yeah.
I mean, I
Like
remember him hitting me
nobody.
with a beer bottle.
Well, exactly. I remember him walking up and being like, because I think I was in the back seat at the time, so like I kind of like got to see him like walk up to the door and then just kind of look in and screaming and then just turn around, like walk back with it. I'm like, all right,
Yeah, I
dude.
never heard anything he said or anything. He was just irate, but I don't know. That's good times, man. Tekken Tag Team.
Tekken Tag Team.
What a wonderful thing to go back down memory lane with. I just do miss that game. Super good, but I do not have the chops for fighting games. I'm sure I could get back into it, but I don't want to. That's a hole that's just insane. I
I will say, just playing these games for the little bit that I did, I was like, oh, I have lost all skill
Yeah,
and all ability. Like even just sitting down with some of them in like the practice mode where like it tells you the moves and stuff, I'm just like,
yep.
I can't, dude.
Can't
Why
yeah.
can't I do this?
That skill set is all gone. I watched. So I went to Black Hat last year, which is a security
Mhm.
conference in Las Vegas. And I was really confused because when I showed up there, everybody walking into the conference had like blue hair and like DBZ t-shirts on, and there's people dressed as Ken and Ryu, and I'm like, I've been to a lot of tech conferences, and there's not usually a ton of
This doesn't seem
cosplay.
like
Well, it turned out, now I'm gonna forget the name of it, but like the North American like biggest fighting championship conference was actually in the room next to ours.
oh, nice.
So like every morning I'd get up, and the thousands of like hacker nerds and the thousands of video game fighting, Capcom, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, whatever,
Mhm.
People all like went down this one hallway together, and then they'd break off. And so I was curious. I looked up the conference, and they were Twitch streaming it. So while I was at the conference, if I had downtime, I would go watch some of these kids just like go crazy in all these different like Capcom fighter. They had all. There wasn't one video game; it was a bunch of them. You could sign up
But
for
yeah.
all these different video games, uh, and it was brutal. Like how good they. I was like, yeah, I'm never getting back in fighting games again. That's. I am way past that Twitch. Like, yeah, it's not possible. Not without some hard dedication. That's
Yeah.
when I knew my life as a Tekken fighter was over.
Was that day or that week?
It was. Woo! Wine. I don't usually drink wine, so if this podcast goes really weird
Or really well.
or really well, we'll find out. So, cheers, wife. Thanks for the wine. So I wanted to talk about some other things. I guess I have a couple notes. Not a lot.
I can guess one of them.
Yeah, you probably guess most of them, but
Probably.
I have been watching stuff. I've been watching some more stuff since the last time we talked. I want to start with something you probably won't guess, which is I've watched two old movies, three if you count the other one, which I think was actually before the last podcast, but I never talked about it. I went back and watched three old movies that I'd never watched before. One of them I always
How
wanted
old?
to. I'm talking 90s.
Okay.
And I always wanted to watch the one, and I don't know why I never did, especially given how into the scene I am. And the other two I had never heard of until just recently. So the first one was Sneakers, which is a classic Robert Redford hacking, like bad guys all get together and make like a pen testing organization, like a business, and then they get like framed by a buddy of his, and they gotta like actually hack into this guy's place and steal this stuff and get out so that they can clear their name, and CIA and all NSA, all this stuff. Great movie. So Hackers is still my number one, like one of my number one favorite movies of all time, especially when it comes to that like subculture stuff. But I would say
Mhm.
this is super good. Like if you haven't watched Sneakers or haven't watched it in a long time, it's actually really worth the watch, especially if you're somebody who's interested in the cybersecurity world. Because yeah, it's some of it's tongue in cheek. It's a movie. I mean, get over it. But there's some actual legit stuff in there that is pretty surprising. Where
Better than Swordfish.
all things are better than Swordfish. Swordfish is probably the worst computer movie I've ever watched in my life. It's good in the way that it's so bad. Like that is it's really bad. But yeah, this has some like legitimate stuff in it, like social engineering stuff and just like
Mhm.
pretty neat stuff. Like it's pretty impressive. It gets a little wonky when they're like decrypting stuff like with a push of a button, but whatever. It's a movie.
Yeah.
So that was really good. I highly recommend it. Have you seen that movie before? Maybe a long time ago.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Recommend it. So the other two, and I'm curious if you've ever heard of these two movies. The first one, which is in the same vein of like, or these are both, I would both call these almost cyberpunk type movies. The
Okay.
first one is very much kind of a Matrix type theme to it. It's called Extends. EXISTENZ. Or Existenz, I guess is what it's probably actually pronounced as. Now I'm reading it. This has Jude Law in it, like very young Jude Law, and the movie is about this lady, or well, spoilers. It gets really weird. You don't know who's who by the end, but initially it's this lady who creates. It's an organic computer that plugs into your body and basically puts you into virtual reality, and but then it gets into almost this. There's these levels of reality by the end, and it gets really weird, and you don't really quite know like where you are by the end of it all, which is kind of interesting. It's quite interesting. So both these movies I mentioned were kind of lost in the Matrix phase. That was 99, which
99. Yep. Yeah, I just found it here. Yeah, I've not heard of that one.
yeah. So it was actually pretty good. I would recommend it. It's the weird biological computer is weird and almost creepy. Like I didn't even like watching any of the scenes with it because like in order for her to use it, she would like plug it into her back, which is really weird. Like instead of like back of your head like Matrix, there was like a bottom of the spinal cord port, but it was like it was all organic. So
Like
instead of like a needle, it was like this weird organic penetration of like skin. And then there was this blob she'd put on the bed and she would like stroke it. It was really but if you get over the really weird biomechanical computer thing, like it was made from frog parts or something at some point, they're trying to explain what it was like the DNA of some frog. I don't know. I don't know. None of that matters. You got to focus on the story of
it's
the layers
okay.
of virtual reality and like the
Mhm.
Inception almost like before
Yeah.
Inception existed. Like there's this layer of reality that you had to like kind of wade through to get to the end of the movie, and I was quite entertained. It was pretty good, and it was fun to see like a super old, super young Jude Law in like a movie. I don't know if that was his first movie, but he was pretty young in it.
Yeah.
And then another one, which I was surprised I'd never heard of before, was called Dark City.
Oh yeah.
So Dark City was 1998. Again, Matrix level
Mhm.
craziness. I wouldn't quite call it cyberpunk, but it has kind of that feel to it.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of like a technological noir kind. Maybe not noir. That's not the right word for it.
well,
I'm trying to.
it has a lot of that kind of gothic noir like vibe to it, with like the 40s cars and like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But as you're watching it at the beginning, especially, there's all these weird mixtures of like technology and errors, and you're like, "What's going on?" But they totally explain that by the end, which is awesome. And where it kind of diverts from the Matrix and probably existence is it's not actually technology at the end in the same way that you would think that's like virtual reality. It's basically a race of alien beings have abducted a bunch of people and put them on a floating space city, and they're trying to study us. And so every night they put us to sleep, and they use telekinetic powers through this giant alien machine to reform the entire city, and they'll rewrite you backgrounds and implant memories in your head, and like it's got like Keith Sutherland in it, and like, or is it Keith Sutherland?
Spoilers.
Well, yeah, who cares? It's 1998. I mean, this movie's not super deep. Spoilers don't necessarily matter a whole lot, but
Sure.
yeah, definitely a spoiler. But again, if you're going back and you want to check out some, because there's like tons of movies that kind of got swallowed up by the Matrix, and that was like around the time like Avatar or was it Avatar? No, it was Titanic and stuff was out. So like Titanic ran for like a year in the box office, making more money than God. And like so there's all these movies that kind of got swallowed up in the late 80s by all these juggernaut movies that we now know
Late
today.
90s.
Or yeah, late 90s.
Yeah.
Um
I think I actually owned Dark City at one point on HD DVD.
nice.
I don't think I ever watched it, but I think I owned it. So there's something.
This is probably the first time I ever saw Rufus Sewell or whatever his name is in a movie. I mean, I've seen him in movies way before this, but this has to be one of his earliest movies too. Um, which I forget some of the stuff he's done. He's been all over the place though. What's a good one? Let's do some IMDb. Oh, he was in Knight's Tale. He was the bad guy in the Knight's Tale,
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
which B Dubs is like one of the greatest movies of all time. But yeah, he plays the bad knight in the Knight's Tale. So like that guy has
What does
been.
this have to do with Buffalo Wild Wings?
By the way, I'm trying to be hip here, Ryan.
Oh,
You're
oh.
ruining it. So yeah, so those were like the three kind of retro movies, if you want to call it that, even though we were in high school during all of those. Um, I
'Cause we're
enjoyed
old.
I enjoyed them all. I was quite glad I went back and found those movies. I don't even know where the last two came up. I was just randomly either watching YouTube videos or Google and stuff, and I just remember writing them down in my notepad saying check out these movies, and I don't even remember who mentioned them, but
Hmm.
it was quite cool to look those up and watch those again. So recommend if you want to go back into the archives. Dark City, Existence, which is spelled a little funny with a Z, and then Sneakers are all super good movies.
They are good. Well, I don't know. I didn't watch them, but they sound good. Dark City, I've heard good things about, and which is part of why I had it when I did. I just never got around to watching it before my HD DVD player died, and that was the end of everything.
That's the saddest story I've ever heard, Ryan.
It's very sad. Um, so
What else have I watched, or have you watched some things?
I'm just trying. Well, how many more movie sort of things do you have? Is that pretty much it?
Well, I have one more movie that I think I've watched that is anywhere near relevant, and then I have a list of anime things because I've been on an anime kick still.
Which is perfect. Bring on your movie.
So
Bring it on.
the modern movie I watched, which I think we talked about a little bit, I don't remember it, maybe we didn't, but it was The Gentleman, which is
Oh,
the new Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie. Yeah. I think we
movie.
talked about it back when I watched it in the theater, like at the very start of our podcasting days. But yeah, I don't think we've talked about it since you did.
So I've seen it, and it is quite good. I
I like
will
it.
not say it is good as the other two movies that I love of his, which is Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. It
Which is
is
fair.
it is quite good. It is well acted. The story is legit, but it's not. It doesn't have that like the thing about Snatch in especially Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is almost the same thing. Snatch is just a little bit newer and a little bit higher production value, and it has like Brad Pitt and stuff in it, so it's got that kind of
Mm.
crazier star value. But they have this beautiful chaos to them where there's just a ton of moving pieces all just kind of linked together in this whirlwind of nuttiness, and it all comes to this kind of crazy nice conclusion at the end. This has that, but it seems like to a much lesser degree.
Yeah,
There's
this
less
is
moving
not.
parts. It's
Yeah, this
slower.
isn't chaotic. This basically has really four maybe key parts that are moving, maybe a couple minor ones outside of those four, but like it's a much more contained and focused version of it or vision of that sort of story, I guess. That being said, I think I've said this on here before. I still haven't seen Snatch, and I need to fix that.
That's right. We mentioned that last time when we talked about The Gentleman. So as far as Guy Ritchie movies go, and there's other ones. Obviously, he's done and I think we talked a little bit that they're making a new Sherlock Holmes,
Mhm.
and those movies are great.
And
The only
he's making another new one that now I'm forgetting what it like after the new Sherlock Holmes ones. He already has his next one lined up. It's like called like Money Boat or something like that.
I have
Um,
not heard of that.
which I only know about it because I listen to stupid podcasts like We Heart It, which is hence turned into Can't Get Enough of Keanu because all they do is they just watch a certain actor and watch all their movies and then talk about it. But it's like the first like big name movie that's like actually sounds like a good movie that Josh Hartnett has been like signed up for in like forever. So they were very excited about it and talked about it. But maybe
Yeah,
it's Money Truck or something like that. I don't remember. But
Cash
continue.
Truck,
Cash Truck. There you go.
Cash Truck. So I'm looking at his IMDb just to pull it up here, and I would say I watched Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which
Hmm.
looks like his first major movie, 1998.
Yep.
And then there's some other stuff. Well, Snatch, I guess, is really right after that in 2000. Brilliant, just absolutely off the wall. I never watched Swept Away. I watched Revolver and Rock and Roller, and I don't really remember them. So they were probably decent.
Hmm.
The Man from Uncle, he did the remake of that, which
Which
was
was a
pretty
good
good.
movie.
That was good. Then he did King Arthur, which I hated. I thought that was a shit show.
I wanted to like it and I didn't hate it, but I didn't. I understand why it did not fit a lot of people's fancies because it wasn't a great movie. It was an okay movie in my book, but it wasn't a great movie.
Yeah, I thought it was a shit show and a half. I was not impressed. I liked the guy who played Arthur and stuff. Like I liked a lot of the visuals, but at the end of the day, like the story just was a complete garbage fire. And I don't know if
He
that was
may
his fault or what.
he may have been one of the better, if not best, parts of The Gentleman as far as that actor.
Yeah, yeah. The henchman, the right hand man
Yeah,
guy,
yeah,
he was
yeah.
super good in
He
Gentleman.
was he was great.
Apparently, he screenplayed the Aladdin remake with Will Smith.
Yes, he did.
I had no idea, and I would not have guessed that from watching it. And then The Gentleman. So, like, out of all that stuff, I would probably say Snatch, Lock, Stock, and The Gentleman are my favorite three, top three. And
The Sherlock
Gentleman
Holmes
holds up.
movies
It's
are
good.
fun,
They are, but I
but
would
they're a
not rank them
very
as my.
different type of movie for him. Like
Yeah.
they're not quote unquote his sort of
I don't think
movies.
he wrote those. He's not listed as a writer. That must have been a director thing he did.
Probably.
Yeah, he was listed as director but not writer. Those other ones are ones he actually did screenplays and stuff. Like he was legit part of making them soup to nuts. So, well, I don't think he directed Aladdin. Maybe. Oh, he did direct Aladdin. I didn't know any of that. Would not have
Yeah.
guessed.
So
Um,
supposedly that has now given, because Aladdin, as much as I've not seen it and I know a lot of people hated it, it made a crap ton of money.
I don't know if I hated it, but I didn't like it. Like it was. There's been very little out of these live action remakes that I have gotten any joy out of. And I make my kids watch the original ones and they love them still to this day. Like it's a pretty basic cartoon art style.
Hmm.
So to me there's like not a lot of reason to like it ages well. Like you can
Yeah,
digitally remaster it pretty easy, put it on a 4K DVD, keep the soundtrack, and it ages quite well. The only thing they like to do is make it a little more poppier, like you
sure.
know, and I get, but my kids like the old stuff too. Like you don't need to do that, and they just like to put the star power behind it too. Is like they can get Will Smith in a movie, and he was probably the better part of that movie, I would say.
I
Uh,
think it started off with a lot of novelty. I mean, like there are some stories that um, like they started off with like Cinderella, I think might have been one of the first ones, if not the first one. And like, I mean, that's the sort of story that whether it's a Disney remake or not, like you just kind of expect those kind of fairy tale stories, especially like the princess ones, to kind of like be something that just comes around every so many years and somebody's going to do something with it or
sure.
makes like some sort of movie based off of that property. So it kind of makes sense that Disney would just be like, let's do this before we let anybody else hop in and take this otherwise not owned by us property and do something with it.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, they can do whatever they want. I just like it's weird. It's like so many
yeah,
resources wasted on something that doesn't. I don't feel needs to be. Obviously, I'm the
sure.
only one because, like you said, it made a crap ton of money. Probably, I didn't ever look, but like I don't care about it. Like it's really weird. What was it? Beauty and the Beast was kind of awful. Like I've seen that a couple times and I really don't care for it at all. The Emma Watson
Hmm.
Beauty and the Beast and
I think to kind of continue my thought with it real quick too is like I kind of started as like a hey, this is like we'll make Cinderella, we'll make Beauty and the Beast. I think they threw Jungle Book in there as one of the first ones.
had
It's kind
Jungle
of
Books in
almost an
there. They did
experiment.
Lion King.
um and then like after those first couple, it kind of just turned into, oh, these actually make money, and now they're just like making them. And at this point, I'm like, not that I really cared about the first ones, but it's even the Lion King, which may have been the last one that has come out. And there's
Yeah,
Mulan
probably.
that's supposed to come out, was
That's
supposed to
coming
come
out.
out in the fall, it's supposed to come out in March, and now it's pushed back to I don't know when. Um, but like, yeah, I don't know. From if I remember right, Lion King did not make the sort of money they expected to make, which that was the third remake they put out in 1 year. Because last year they had Dumbo in the spring, which did pretty horrible.
I didn't even remember
Um, it may have
that.
made its money. It was a, I don't think it was Tim Burton, but it was some like edgy Tim Burton esque dark guy who made it. Maybe it was Tim Burton. I don't know. Oh, that was some of your first ones too. The Tim Burton Alice in Wonderlands were probably the first of all the live action ones remakes. Um, if we're going down the Disney thing. At any rate, you
Don't
had
have to.
Dumbo. You had Dumbo. You had Aladdin, and then
Was
you
it
had
Alice in
Lion King.
Wonderland? Sorry, the Alice in Wonderland, was that the thing with the Jabberwocky?
Probably, yeah,
That was really weird.
yeah. But you had those three live action ones all in 1 year, and it's like, I think if I remember right, Lion King really didn't do great. It probably made its money back and made some money, but it didn't do nearly as well as Aladdin did. And I think people are kind of like done with it. We're getting there, but who
Who
knows?
knows? It was weird with Disney. There's all sorts of people who just like buy anything with a Mickey Mouse on it. Like I don't know.
It's true.
It's all weird. What were we talking about? I got nothing.
I don't know. We were talking about Guy Ritchie, and
We were.
somehow.
Oh,
and then
right.
because
Yeah,
he did Aladdin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aladdin was terrible. I'm just gonna go out and say it. And it's so weird too because it's the original. So back to me being the originalist on these things
Mhm.
is you had Robin Williams, for God's sakes, who's the fucking genie, like
Yep.
the genie. Like how, even if you're Will Smith, do you actually have the hubris to like think that you're going to come in and produce a genie that is going to touch Rainbow fucking Randolph? Like I don't think so, right? Like not even he can be that. I mean, they show. I'm sure he didn't think that. They showed him millions of dollars. He said, "Sure, whatever. Like CG
Sure.
paint me. I don't give a crap." But it's just like that's such an iconic role. Like it's one of the most iconic Disney roles, and with all the drama around him and that movie, like it just kind of cements him as the genie, like no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just like remaking that is silly. It almost is. It's distasteful. It's like it spits in the face of the art form if there's such a thing with Hollywood. But I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know why we're on Disney movies, but
I will say, so we'll take this and we'll go into Will Smith land. And I will say that although it doesn't completely break my heart, it does make me a little disappointed that he is not going to be part of Suicide Squad 2 for two different reasons. For reason number one is Deadshot is always part of Suicide Squad.
right.
Pretty much always. I mean, like, there have been some rare occasions where he has not been, I believe, but for the most part, he is a staple. And so to make a Suicide Squad movie without Deadshot is dumb, and I don't like it.
I would agree.
Number
with that.
two, his character, while that first movie was a huge mess, I would say that he was one of the few parts that kind of worked in the first movie.
Yeah.
And
No, I
from
would
that
agree with that too.
perspective, I'm like, why can't you people make this work in some way?
Him and Margot Robbie as again, what's her nuts? Were like the best two parts of that. I mean, the script was out. You could obviously tell the studio recuts what ruined that movie. Like, I honestly,
Yeah.
to this day, think it would be nice to see the original cut of what that movie was supposed to be before
Yeah,
they
there
added
is an
all the pop
extended
music and
one,
yeah. But as
but
far
I
as I
don't
know,
think
they have
that's a
not done like an
director.
actual
No.
director cut where it was like, here's what we were originally supposed to do, because they went in and post, because it was right after, was that right after Guardians of the Galaxy came out with like the Wicked soundtrack, and they like in post went and rewrote it all, like they bought all the soundtrack stuff to put in to kind of like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy is doing this, which
I
is always
don't
a recipe for disaster.
Well, I don't remember exactly how it fit in with the Guardians of the Galaxy timeline. I do remember that like there was a very early trailer that had the I don't remember what song was in the soundtrack, but it was like a song that just fit it. And then the way that like basically because trailer studios are usually completely separate from the actual movie studios, if that makes sense. The
Yeah, Suicide Squad
movie
was two
studio.
years after, or a year and
Okay,
a half or something. So
so it was definitely long enough after to be affected
it
by
was
it.
probably in production when the movie came out, and people started going, "Oh crap, we got to shove all this music into the," because
Yeah, but basically what happened is the trailer got a ton of attention. It portrayed everything as being
hi bud,
um hey Ethan. Portrayed everything as being very
could have been all right.
funny and poppy. And then when they were doing their screen test after that first trailer, people went in with one mindset from that trailer and then saw the screen test, and apparently it screen tested horribly. And so the studio execs went, okay, we need to completely remake this
Okay,
because it's not the way we want it.
it, so probably then if it fits into the way I kind of heard it was maybe they tested that in the trailer because that's what the trailer was for, like that. So they added that music because that was a big thing after Guardians of the Galaxy made it so damn popular. And then
Yeah.
maybe that funneled back in. But yes, I know it was part of like the, we got to shove this part in, and that I know the studio like made them reshoot and recut the movie all to hell because they didn't like it. But I'm guessing it would have been 10 times a better movie. Not to say it would have been a great movie regardless, but I bet you
Mhm.
would have been way better than it was. Because I remember watching that and just, you could almost see where they were cutting things up, like as you're watching it, going, Jesus, what is going on here?
Two movies that I wish, well, we'll say three movies.
Keep talking.
Three movies that I wish we could go back.
Oh God, that didn't work.
What did you try to do?
Just keep talking.
Okay. So 3 movies I wish that they could go back and actually have like the director's final cut / view on. Number 1, the recent Fantastic Four reboot, because that movie was horrible, absolutely horrible. And it is one of the few occasions where when before the movie even came out, the director said, "Good luck, this sucks," very publicly. Um, and when the director, before the movie's even released, comes out and says, "This movie is not my movie, it's horrible," that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's 100% another one that I would like to see redone. Like you said, he was like right off the bat, like this is not the movie I wanted to make, because he was like most famous for like a pretty low, I want to say low budget, like almost horror movie before that. Like it was kind of a
Yeah.
weird pick for him anyway.
Hmm.
And so like they brought him in. They obviously wanted this darker tone. Yeah, all the original materials around that movie looked like they wanted the darker tone, and they still. Sorry, I haven't actually watched it because it sounded so bad, but they kept some of the dark tone, I guess. But
There are some gems to that movie,
it
but
sounds
they're
like they
few and
reversed it.
far between. Yeah,
Well, they're probably the parts that they left in that were less touched than the other parts,
probably.
and from the original stuff. And yeah, I agree that would be another one I would like to see them do something. The original one, which obviously would have been very different and probably darker and a little more scary, maybe if you want to call it that.
Um, yeah, yeah, I would love to see that one with the director's actual view. I'm actually going to skip to the third one and come back to the second one. This is the one that I probably don't even care about, but I'm going to include because it's the fancy one that everybody wants to include. Which, if it was possible to see a completely Zack Snyder made Justice League, I would be interested in seeing it. As much as I understand that Zack Snyder's previous movies, being the Superman movie, Man of Steel, and Superman versus Batman, Dawn of Justice, are not the superhero movies that people wanted.
Right.
They're not. I still hold that they're not bad movies. They're not. They're not great, but they're not bad. They're good. They are what they are, and I would have loved to see him finish off a little mini trilogy, if you will, with the Justice League. And what we got was this dark vision of Zack Snyder that they had Josh Whedon like shoehorn Josh Whedon into,
Who's not
and
dark.
which was not dark, and like it's just it's a mess. It's a mess, and like I don't know that the Zack Snyder one would make it a wonderful movie, but it would at least probably make it a watchable movie, which I'm not sure it is right now.
I 100% believe that it would be better than what we had. I again, I don't know how high that bar is, but I would like. I would always prefer to see. This is one of the reasons I don't like to watch trailers. Right? Is
Mm-hmm.
even if the movie's gonna be not that great, I want to enjoy it the way it was meant to be seen by the director and the writers and the crew making it. Because trailers,
Yeah.
very often, even with the best intended trailers, and it's not even necessarily a spoilers thing, but they get the tone wrong, or they give away something that makes you think the movie might go one way or the other. And to me, it's so much better to go in with like a kind of a pure mindset and just think, you know, I want to see this movie for the way they made the movie. So I
Mm-hmm.
tend, if it's a movie I know I'm going to watch, I tend to avoid trailers altogether. Not It's not even necessarily a spoiler thing. It's just I want to, and that all feeds back to this. I would much have rather seen the legitimate piece of art that they're making, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. I would rather see
Yeah.
it the way it was originally intended by the people you hired for a reason to make the movie, right? Like there's a reason they got Zack Snyder. He's If you went into hiring him not knowing the type of movies he was going to make, by God, you have not been paying attention to anything.
Yeah.
And then why did you hire him in the first place? And so you bring him in and he's going to make that type of movie, and that's the movie I want to see. Like, I was interested in it. I would never have hired him to make a Superman movie, but you did, and
Yeah.
I know I want to see it now. And then you screwed it up because you recut everything. And granted, I think he had some family problems and whatever, so he might have to leave the project
Sure.
anyway. But I would
I mean,
love
the
to
reason,
see the original art form.
yeah, I mean, the reason he did leave was officially because his daughter committed suicide in the middle of the production, which is horrible,
It's,
absolutely
yeah,
horrible. And like you can't. The fact that he left is not the issue in this case, because that is understandable.
Right.
But the fact that when the studio collected somebody to come in and basically finish it for him, they went in a complete 180 opposite direction as much as they possibly could, definitely did not help the movie in any way, shape, or form.
Do we know how far into production they were when he left? Like, was it feasible they could have just finished the film up with what he had and kept the direction? Or did they have to bring in Whedon and redo? So I know they reshot a bunch of stuff too.
They did. My understanding is they had finished the primary filming, which it was filmed with the intention of coming back for major reshoots.
Okay.
A lot of superhero movies are these
Absolutely.
days. So like it was by no means a completed thing. But it was the primary filming had been completed, if I recall properly.
Right.
So really at that point, it's just they brought Whedon in to kind of touch up the script, look at what's there, fill in some blanks, and then also to completely change the thing tonally. Because again, there was a trailer that featured more of the few but existing funny parts. And it turned into, oh, well, obviously we need to be funny because Avengers are funny. Yeah,
right. Which is silly. And no knock on Whedon. Like, we're both Whedon fanboys, I would say.
Sure,
like,
absolutely.
I get everything I can get my hands on. I mean, I got Dr. Horrible poster right above here. I got Firefly over here. Like, the dude's a genius, and he tells stories really well. Really well. And the work he did in Marvel, like, really well. But, yeah, you're right. It's a complete tone shift to bring him into a Zack Snyder movie and try to complete it. Like, it's kind of weird.
And in his defense, even, and why I think it's why I'm so sure it was a studio done thing as far as the tonal shift, is that Whedon isn't really widely known by the general populace, but Whedon is actually known as a man in Hollywood who is very good at coming in and doing additional work directing wise and editing wise on films to help finish things up while maintaining the director's vision and style. And he's done that apparently on a number of occasions, and we don't ever hear about it or see about it because it's all done as like a consulting side gig. This is what I've heard in any case, but
that may be 100% true. But how many of those were Zack Snyder?
Well,
like that guy has a very distinct filmmaking.
That's fair. But I've seen like a list of some of the movies that he's worked on, and they were very non-Snyderish or Whedon-y movies, and I was like, oh, like I'm actually kind of surprised by that. And that was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something now, so it's kind of on the edges of my memory. But yeah, the studio definitely wanted a different movie. I will say this: if you could roll back time and let me just tell the DC people what to do, I would probably say, let Zack Snyder make his movies. Do not let him run the franchise, because I think that was the big mistake.
Yeah. Yep.
Because his movies are going to be his movies, and like I don't think I actually really like Man of Steel #1. I think Batman versus Superman gets more crapped on than what it's really deserves.
I didn't actually watch that one in theater. I only watched the half-hour extended version of that, which everybody said was better.
It was.
I like Ben Affleck as old grizzled, like Batman versus Superman style Batman. Like, I honestly thought that played really well in my book.
Yeah.
And that movie was fine. I didn't love it or hate it necessarily. The Superman is a point of contention for me. The Man of Steel movie. It has highs and it has lows. I do not like the neck break, which I think a lot of people get torn up about. I instantly remember regretting that in the theater, watching that in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I also instantly remember, like, it looked cool, but there was something almost too surreal about the destruction of the city when they're like flying through buildings and like things were collapsing, and you almost get this like that was in a lot in the second one too, the Man of Steel, where they're running through the buildings at ground level too, and like things are coming down. Like, I don't know, it just got a little weird. But I didn't hate the movies either. I know some people that absolutely viscerally hate the Superman movie. I did not at all. I love Henry Cavill or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
As Superman, I thought he did a great job as a Superman. Not a great Clark Kent in my mind. He's a little too
That's fair.
pretty, a little too pretty for
A
Clark
little
Kent.
too thick in this
Oh
area.
my god, the dude is built like a shit brick house, like, or a brick shit house, however that phrase
Or
goes.
whatever it is. Yeah.
But yeah, so like when you watching him walk around as like Clark Kent, you're like, dude, that dude is Superman. Like you gotta,
There's no question.
it's the Peter Parker problem too, right? Like you've had people who play Spider-Man who are good Spider-Mans but bad Peter Parkers and vice versa, because
Mhm.
either they were too nerdy and they did the Peter Parker part right, but then they didn't. But it's worse with
Yeah.
Superman because you see his face the whole time.
Well, one of the
But
things that they can get away with in the comics that you can't get away with in movies is having Superman like be super ripped.
right,
Like part of Superman's thing is like, yeah, he's super strong, but it's like not a natural strength. Like if that makes sense. Like
right, they
like
draw
he's
him
an
differently.
alien, right?
Right, when they draw him as Clark Kent, he's just a dude in a suit. He might be big or whatever, but like he's a dude in the suit, depending on who's drawing him. But when they
Right.
put him in like Superman's suit, dude is monumentally huge, like super strong, and yeah,
But
like
from like a movie visually, like part of the reason why oh crap, how can I can't remember his name now? The old guy, like the 70s, 80s Superman.
what in the
What? Oh, there's a kitty.
why are you on me? Out of here. Hi, Baxter. Oh,
Oh,
what's his name?
Reeves,
Yes,
something
Christopher
Reeves,
Reeves.
Christopher Reeves. There we go. Like
Great Clark Kent.
he was a great Clark Kent, and you can believe him as Superman because you're not expecting his strength to come from like a physique.
Yeah,
His strength isn't coming because he's so well built.
he's like,
It's coming because he's an alien who's absorbed like
yeah.
yellow sun. Like it I don't supernatural isn't the right word, but it's science
I
fiction.
almost
Like
said
it's
supernatural, and then I was thinking, that's interstellar or something.
sure, yeah. But it's not your normal human understanding of body. So you can get away with having the good Clark Kent still be Superman, but it doesn't work the other way.
Right.
Not very well.
But I agree. I would like to see the Snyder cut. I would like to see what he would actually have done. The movies are fine. The other than the last one, the other one's pure garbage. But the first two were I enjoyed them to a certain extent, just because they were different. They were Zack Snyder films, and I'm okay with that. I don't know. I don't know. Batman. He should have just stuck to a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Like because you can make a dark, gritty Zack Snyder movie as Batman all day long, and that will play. Which is why I actually like the second one maybe a little better, because a lot of it there was a lot of focus on Batman there, but like as
There was.
Superman, it doesn't play. He's truth, justice, and the American way, and it's like bright. He's literally like the man of the sun. Like it's all bright. It's I don't know. It doesn't play. Anyway, what was your third one? Give us the big one.
My third one is relevant to where I want to go after this discussion, which is I would like to have seen a final director's cut version of the 1980s Dune movie.
Yeah.
Basically,
I guess I would
mainly,
too.
mainly because David, I can't remember his last name. No, he's like a famous director from like the 80s who did Dune. He did
Lynch.
Yeah, David Lynch, who directed Dune in the 80s. It was like his third big film, and like essentially he went into it with good relationship with the producer and the film executive. And as of recently, he gave an interview where they asked him if he had any like what his thoughts were on like the first like photo stuff and everything coming up for the new Dune movie, and he basically just said, "I don't care." And he was like, "It's not because I have anything against this director or anything against like making the film again, but basically the film was such like a pain spot for him that he just does not want to revisit or go back to it." And essentially, what he ended up saying was that it's like I went into the film knowing that I would not have final cut, and for some reason I thought that that would end up okay.
And it wasn't.
But not having final cut just really made it not my vision and not my film, and I did not get what I wanted out of it. He's like, there are parts of it that I really like. He's like, because they filmed it all down in Mexico City. He's like, I loved my time in Mexico City. I loved the whole cast. I even liked working for the most part with the producer in the studio, but like not having the final cut and not being able to make the movie that I envisioned and that I wanted and then having it be such a like large failure on top of that, it was just very gut wrenching and not at all something that he enjoys remembering.
I can only so I didn't know any of that, and actually until you just said that, I didn't realize David Lynch did the first Dune movie. Currently, the only Dune movie.
Hmm.
As somebody who has a lot of respect for David Lynch because I'm a Twin Peaks fan, which I think if anybody knows him, it's almost undoubtedly from Twin Peaks, which was an insane show that ran on Showtime or something.
Although in his defense, Elephant Man was a very big movie in its day.
Oh, okay, I don't know what Elephant Man is, but good
Maybe
for
it
him.
wasn't David Lynch. No, let me make sure I'm not making this.
There is an Elephant Man movie listed in his IMDb that I'm looking at.
Okay.
1980s type thing. So,
Yep.
I didn't watch Dune. If I There's a good chance I may have watched it when I was younger, but I don't really remember it. I did go back and watch it a couple years ago when I went and listened to the audiobook while I
Hmm.
was driving around going back and forth to work. I was like, oh, that was cool. I'm gonna go watch that old movie. I know they made one. I didn't hate it, but now that you say that, and it was David Lynch, I can totally understand why this might be a pain point for him because I can almost just recall points in the movie now, maybe not like pinpoint, but
Sure.
I get the feeling that he made that movie now. Like that movie makes more sense to me now that you said David Lynch made the movie. And I could totally see where it was not the movie he necessarily wanted as final cut. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that bums me out. I would totally like to see a David Lynch director cut of Dune then because that dude is cuckoo crazy birds, and I'm okay with that because
Yeah. Yeah.
he is nutty, and he's like obsessed with shooting movies with like camcorders and stuff. Like he hates like super high production, which is kind of insane because Dune looked like it might
Right.
have had a budget back in
Oh, it
1984.
did. It had a huge budget. It took 3.5 movies to make the movie. They filmed in Mexico City for a year and a half for the like primary like filming of everything. It was
Yeah. So that seems like outside his wheelhouse, but I totally get where it's kind of a David Lynch movie now, which is I would totally enjoy seeing a director's cut of that. I mean, that'll never happen in a million years.
it'll
But,
never happen. Neither will the
uh,
Justice League Snyder cut. So we'll
right.
just sit in the dream world or the Fantastic Four one. All these are ones that will never happen. So
So I guess that segues to a question I had to you kind of
mhm.
Saturday night is it looks like, and I don't know if anybody cares. I don't know if I really care, but it looks like they are gender swapping um uh what is did I not write that down? I totally wrote that. Did I get rid of it?
The main chick's
Uh
dad.
uh Liet Kynes, right? Is that Liet Kynes, the
Yeah.
planetariist or whatever, um, who is kind of like the main guy who likes the natives and stuff, kind of
Hmm.
thing. A major role,
Yeah.
and they are making him a female, and there's a lot of butthurt uproar out there. I don't know if I care.
I don't care. Like to be honest, like it almost feels like it is. I mean, sure, the source material has it as a father, and I'm sure somebody I mean, you don't just change something like that on accident, like it's a purposeful thing. But at the same time, of all the characters that you could have done that, as far as changing the gender, that's probably the least meaningful one you
Right.
could have. Like I mean, that character definitely has its purpose and its role, but it's kind of, unless they're expanding the part a lot more than what's in the books, it's kind of just like oh hey, I'm going to make some important things happen for this film or this plot to continue, and I am the parent of the main character Jane, who Paul falls in love with or ends up in a relationship with, whatever, ends up being the in-law basically to the main character, but like it it doesn't really affect anything. So I'm like, all right, it's if this is how they choose to pander,
Right.
yeah, I don't care.
Creasel says they'll eventually get an original Star Wars cut from you mean like the original theatrical release of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? Just hold your breath, I think. Then they they changed those again when they released them on Disney Plus, I heard. So I don't know about that, but hopefully.
According to George Lucas, there is no original left because he destroyed them all because his movies are living.
Nice. Uh,
Thanks, George.
I, I mean, I guess the government could come after me. I have a 60 millimeter copy of the theatrical release of Star Wars: A New Hope that a group of
Well, you don't have
people
a 60 millimeter one.
70.
You have a
Well,
digitalized,
yes, some
restored
somebody
continued.
took an original like 70 millimeter from a movie theater that they found somewhere, and they scanned at a very high DPI all of frame by frame the entire movie, stabilized it, and like cleaned it up so it looks really good. Like it's like a 40 gig 80 gig file or something, and they leave like the cigarette burns in from the film, but they stabilize the film so it's not doing this thing, and like it looks super good, and it's the actual, and that's what I've showed my kids, that's what they have watched, because I'm like, this garbage with the weird rocks and Han shoots glass, like that's all bullshit.
In the really horrible late 90s CG or early
Yeah,
90s CG where it like does not fit in
yeah,
the
like
frames at all.
Jabba the Hutt, like, and he steps on his like all that kind of garbage is, I'm no. But I want to get back to this Liet Kynes thing. I don't, I guess I don't care. I agree that if you're gonna pick a character in here, it's probably the least intrusive, but still having a major. I will say that Frank Herbner or Herbert or whatever his name is that wrote the original book
Mhm.
obviously put a ton of fucking thought into male and female roles in this story,
Yeah,
because
that's
there's
true.
a huge, like, if they would have changed the main character, it breaks everything, because there's a whole thing that the women of the story hold this special power, and he's like the first boy that, like, or maybe not first, but it's like a really rare thing, I forget all the details, but like there's a really huge dynamic between the women in the story and the males in the story, and it's part of the story. So changing the male and the female relationships in the story seems a little much, like you're really, it's dangerous to edit that in this story, because so much is riding on that relationship between
Sure.
mothers and fathers and males and females, and women have a very powerful role in this story on some level, like it's a thing, it's a really big thing, and you can tell that's part of the ethos of the whole universe that he lays out.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a world like for being a book that was written in what like the 50s or 60s or something. It was a while back.
65.
Um, for being a book that was written way back then, like it's very forward thinking and like it's not like the women portrayed throughout the Dune world are powerless or don't
Yeah.
have a point. Like they are very powerful entities. You can make the argument that women are controlling more of the universe than the men are
Yep.
within these books. So
Yep.
it's not like the story requires you to bring a woman
Right.
forward where they weren't before.
There are some very strong women
Um,
characters in this book, very strong.
yeah, but again, honestly, I'm kind of indifferent. Like we'll
Yeah.
see how the movie ends up, and if they do something really stupid with the character on top of making it a woman instead of a man, then
Again, I will say that there is, like, this may be the least intrusive character that I can think of if you're going to do it and still have a key player get gender swapped. But I kind of feel
the
like he acted a bit as a father figure though for um the prince or the duke's kid after the dad dies or whatever. So to me, it's like
a little bit, but
I'm struggling if that is part of the thing they're going to miss, because he doesn't really need mother figures, more of them. He needs more
right.
father figures after his dad is killed. So
My guess is that they will probably play it up because in the books and in the previous movies, like there's always kind of been some like tension between um, Paul's mom and Jenny, and I think having her mother be around may and then yeah be a part of that to a certain extent may help to flesh out part of why there is some tension between the two beyond just the fact that she's obviously going to be the wife of her son, or not the wife but the partner of her son and vice versa. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Whole lot of who knows at this point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. It'd be nice to see a good treating of that story.
And it does look good. And I'm excited that like when the director took on the new movie, he made it very clear up front that unless it was a 2-movie thing, he's not doing it, because
it's a
doing
lot of book to put in one movie.
exactly. And I'm still not sure exactly where they're going to put the split point. Like I can kind of see a few places that might work, but it'll be interesting.
One thing I wanted to mention, we're done with Dune. I want
Sure.
more Dune. I should actually go listen to the book again because I really did enjoy it.
You should listen to some of the other books.
I should. I won't. I should.
Please.
Maybe I will. Who knows?
I feel like you have access to them.
There, a while ago, I mentioned a good movie that I had just randomly found on the internet that I had no idea what it was about, and it was a lot like Push, and that was Code 8.
Mhm.
So we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. You can go find that in some previous episode. I don't know what episode it was, but you can find it somewhere. I do recommend it though. If you liked Push and you like superpowered beings, it's on Netflix now. It just came out this last week or so, and it's trending top 10. So other people are definitely watching it, and I really had a lot of fun with that movie. So that is definitely a recommendation I would make.
Code 8.
Code 8. I would do it. I would also say I'm still on an anime kick, baby.
Watching the anime.
So, couple highlights of anime recently is I finished up Dragon Ball Z Super all the way through now. Really enjoyed it. It is so far over the shark. It is not even funny, but it's done so well that you enjoy it the whole time. Like it is just watching the most ridiculous wrestling match you've ever seen in all of galactic history. And it's so Dragon Ball it hurts, like in a good way. And it doesn't care. It's unapologetic. It just knows it's ridiculous. So if you like Dragon Ball and you haven't watched Dragon Ball Super, watch it through to the end. It is super fun. It's redunculous, but it doesn't care, and it's good. And then go watch the new Brawley movie they made, which I actually watched in the theater. It makes more sense now that you see the end because it takes place after
Super.
after Super finishes up. But
It is nice to have a movie that actually, because most Dragon Ball movies in the past didn't have anything to do with actual continuity in the show. So it's nice to have one that actually kind of fits with things too.
I will say this barely does. Did you watch the Brawley movie?
No, I mean I
Okay.
know the layout of it.
So I remember the original Brawley movie. I think this may be better than that one, not just because the soundtrack is stellarly good, but in the action, they obviously put a ton of money into the action. Not that the action isn't ever good in Dragon Ball Z, but like you can tell, like frame by frame, they're doing high def renderings of all the moves. Because if you watch the movie, like it's crystal clear the type of action that's going on, instead of them just blurring lines all over the place like they normally do. And Brawley is much more fleshed out, which is kind of fun. And the whole history of Planet Vegeta and all that stuff is a lot more prevalent in this movie, which is all super cool stuff. And then it's obviously post end of Super Vegeta and Goku, and then there's Frieza makes an appearance, kind of thing. But it doesn't really tie in to the end, other than they're kind of at a certain power level that they were at before, which actually makes Brawley even more psychotically powerful than you could possibly think.
Which was always the big play up for him, was that he was
Right.
supposed to be way over the top. Then,
Right.
yeah.
Actually, in Super, one of the cool things is so the whole end of Super is it's a tournament of champions type thing, which it's Dragon Ball, right?
Mhm.
But this is the champions from all these different universes. There's 12 of them, and it's like a battle royale where you bring your top 10 or whatever best fighters. And the thing is as your team gets knocked out, your entire universe gets snapped out of existence by their version of God, like the highest deity there is. There's multiple layers of gods in Dragon Ball Z, but there's like the highest. And one of the other universes has Saiyans in it as well that show up. And they actually earlier in the show they get like a precursor fight with them, but one of them is their version of Brawley, but it's a girl. But she's like this very timid, super shy, very small female girl. And at one point, she sees her friend get hurt, and you don't really see it coming. But then that like green Brawly energy hits, and she goes ape shit, and it's amazing. Like she just because he has this very distinct like green aura, like they
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
give to
yeah.
any of the other Saiyans. It's a and
The
all
Brawly
and
thing.
you see, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this is Brawly. Only it's the other universe, and she just starts tearing everybody a new one all over the place. It's actually super fun. So yeah, really enjoyed that. I also finished the second season of High Score Girl, which is something that we have both talked about.
Hmm.
Uh, I still really, really like the show, but they kind of get away from. I mean, they don't. It's still a huge part is the fighting games and nostalgia, but they focus a little more on like the love story of the kind of couple main characters, which is fine. They do a good job with it.
Sure.
Really highly recommend it. It's very different if you're used to like Dragon Ball Z, but really like it. They do. Have you watched it yet at all?
No, season 2.
Okay,
No.
so season two's good. I won't spoil anything, but there's still lots of great '80s, maybe early '90s nostalgia video game stuff. And then finally, the one that you've been pushing me to watch, I went and blasted through 2 seasons of that yesterday.
You're welcome.
Yesterday. So we've talked a lot about My Hero Academia. It is probably my favorite thing right now. It is
It is great.
it is just phenomenal how well they write those characters and how well that show is put together and how they just kind of never fall into these weird tropes. And I've gone over this a million times.
Which I did today, just finally catch up to the end of the English dub.
So season
Yeah,
4 or
and
whatever.
season 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually is not true. There is one season. Episode 21 just came out this like weekend on
Oh,
the English
nice.
dub. So I haven't watched that yet. So
I
I'm not
haven't
quite
watched
caught up.
that
But
yet either. So you've been kind of talking another one that, and I've seen this all over that people love this show, and it's One Punch Man. So I sat down and
hmm
it's 2 seasons. They're short episodes. They're 20 minutes long or whatever. And so I pounded through those, and there was only like 10 or so episodes a season, so it wasn't like this 50 episode thing. And it's fantastic. I will say that. I don't necessarily think I like it better than My Hero Academia. It's a bit different.
it's definitely different.
It definitely has the super. So the reason we got into it is because the big thing with My Hero Academia is there's superheroes all over the place. And there's like there's superheroes in training, and there's like a superhero organization, and you got to get registered. So there's a lot of themes that hit in this as well.
Hmm.
Um, where the main character in My Hero Academia is trying to be the greatest hero of all time for truth, justice, American way, and whatever, and All Might is his hero. The main character in One Punch Man is literally just fucking bored.
Well, I mean,
I
he's
mean, he
he's
starts,
bored now, but
yeah,
like he starts off because he wants to be the great, like
but
a hero.
the entire time he says he wants to be a hero for fun, like all the way through the thing.
He
Like he
does say that.
saves the first time he saves some kid, he's like, "Oh, this is fun," and he got a big rush out of it, right? And
Yeah,
so he wasn't necessarily like he was doing the right thing for probably the right reasons, but that wasn't like what got him stoked, in my opinion. And he was just driving that thrill the entire time from then. And he somehow, without them really explaining it, which is great, I kind of don't want them to, has gotten to this point where he literally just annihilates anything there is with one punch. Like no matter how strong, no matter whatever, he's just infinitely strong. And it's just about this guy who's kind of
super fast,
bored.
super strong.
Yeah, he's just like beyond Superman type. I mean, he doesn't shoot laser beams or anything out of his eyes, but like as far as speed and strength, like his super punch is like normal punch. Like the names are really silly.
Repeated, perfectly normal punches.
Yeah. And it just obliterates like 300 kilometers of mountainside just by like him making a punch. And the characters are quite well done. It falls into a ton of tropey characters, like, and you kind of
Mhm.
slipped when you confused him in that one episode of ours, the bicycle dude.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a great character, even though
He is
he's
a great character.
only in like any episode for a couple seconds. But there are some silly characters that are just silly to be silly. There are some cool characters that are cool. I will say the first season was fantastic, and it ends in just this most monumental, like over the top battle, which is
Yeah.
it almost feels out of place, but I think we kind of talked about it a second. It's almost not too because the monsters and stuff in the first season just kind of come out of nowhere, and this one does too. And it's just him dealing with the stuff. And number two, they kind of try to add a story around it, and like things are a little more structured, and all of a sudden he's fighting like normal dudes, which doesn't make any sense because he like. But what's fun is in number 2 they explore this idea that even though he's like killed all the biggest monsters in the world, nobody knows him, which is actually kind of the fun part about season 2 is he actually tries to start getting some name recognition because literally nobody knows who he is, even though he's done all the work forever for 3 years now.
And like one of his friends is like known as like the strongest human on Earth, and like he's just a regular guy who's like really buff, but
Yeah.
like he's not a fighter
Yeah.
or like have any superpowers, and he just happens to always be in the wrong place at the right time
Yeah.
to get credit for like all these things.
Yeah, he doesn't actually know the guy at first. When he first meets him, he meets him as he's the number 1 ranked hero in the world.
He's not.
And-
He's ranked number 7, but he's the number
Oh.
1 strongest human.
Okay, maybe they didn't show one then or something. Anyway, yeah,
One we have not seen number
yeah,
1.
okay, maybe that's what it is. Anyway, this dude's a monster apparently. His name's Tiger or whatever. But yeah, they eventually explain that he actually isn't a hero. He just happens to always be where One Punch Man has destroyed some monster, and he's just left there, and people assume he destroyed them.
Because he's a big, scary looking guy with
Yeah.
like a scar on
Yes.
his eye and everything, and it's like, oh, good.
When it was always One Punch Man, but One Punch Man never like even knew he was there. Like it's pretty funny. It's really quite funny. It's a comical show, and it's fun to explore this like character who's just too powerful and how bored he is with life and things. So, but the end fizzles, I think, in 2 pretty hard. They introduce a really cool character as a villain, the Hero Hunter, which is also kind of a thread they explore in My Hero Academia. And
Which he was very briefly in season 1. I noticed only because I rewatched season 1
okay.
not that long ago, and like it was like literally like a split second, like, oh hey, here's this one person,
Okay.
and then you don't see him again until like the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, so season 2 he becomes like this super ultra strong fighter, and like he's taken out like huge dudes by the end, and like multiple dudes at the end, and like and they kind of explore, but then that just kind of goes away, and then the show just kind of ends, and it's kind of this weird ending point. I almost want to say, and I have no background on this show at all, but I almost want to say that they made season 1 with no expectation to make season 2, because the way they end
feels that
season
way.
1 is so over the top. Like they kind of just did the thing they wanted to do, which we're going to show you this guy who's just too powerful and kind of explore his world for a season, and it's going to be kind of fun. And then they're like, oh, people really like this, we should come back and make one, but we kind of have to reset the universe a little bit to where it's not like god tier aliens are coming down from the sky and getting punched in the face by this guy. So but season 2 is good. I don't know if it's as strong, and it kind of fizzles at the end, especially fizzles at the end.
It felt like it was building up to a similar giant thing that season 1 had, and then when you get to that like last episode and a half, like last 2 episodes, instead of it coming together in this big blowout that you're kind of expecting, it's kind of like, well, we're just gonna kind of hit the peak and just kind of come down a bit.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh well, it's a horrible way to end a season. But
well, they gear everything up for like you're expecting the Hero Hunter killer or whatever to fight One Punch Man at some point. And
well, not only that, but
spoilers,
even like
that doesn't happen, and like it just kind of goes away. Like
Well,
I mean, he's still there. He's totally still there for like whatever season 3 will be. But
sure. Well, spoilers aside, like it's not like the two haven't run into each other.
So okay, yeah, fuck spoilers. But that was probably my favorite scene in 2, and I saw it coming as soon as it started to happen. Was the hero killer is walking down the street. He doesn't know who One Punch Man is because nobody fucking knows who he is. He's like a class
Right.
C or whatever. Like, because he hasn't done any, like, he'd gone through all
Well,
the
he's
official
class B
papers.
now.
No,
He's
yeah,
class B
he
after
says-
defeating the alien guy at the end of season 1. He's class B.
No,
now.
no, he's nothing at the end of season 1. He
No,
doesn't
no,
register until season 2.
No, he was class C going into the end of season 1
I thought all that was in season 2.
because
I
they
watched it all
invited
at
him.
once.
They invited him to the big table, and they're like, "Why is this class C guy here?"
Right. Well,
And that was the end of season 1.
I thought that was the beginning of season 2, was him getting registered, because his buddy's like, "You're supposed to register, aren't you registered?" And anyway,
that was
none of
still in
matters.
season
He's
1,
a
but
no
continue.
name. He's a no
Yeah, yeah.
name. And Tiger, who we just were talking about, is 7th or whatever, super strong, considered like one of the best fighters. is sitting there in the street, and so the hero hunter like sees him, is like, oh, I'm gonna jump this dude, and he and by this time One Punch Man knows he's not an actual hero, I believe, and the dude goes to jump him, and One Punch Man like kicks him through a wall. It's like, dude, that guy was gonna like jump you. He goes, I get that kind of crap all the time. They just keep walking, and like, it's pretty
It's
hilarious scene.
and then there's another scene, I think a little bit later on, where the One Punch Man guy is out trying to do some shopping, and like he accidentally like bumps into the hero killer like in front of a shop. He's like, oh hey, and then the guy turns around, like the hero killer thinks he's talking to him and turns around and is like, oh, this guy knows who I am, like he's dressed like a superhero, but I don't know who he is. I better take action. And he like is gonna go to like punch him, and One Punch Man just like takes a punch and is like, what, why? I'm trying to shop in this window that's right past you. And then he just like flips him, and like he goes flying, and like that's the end of it. It's like
I may not
it's
have saw
happened
that one.
twice.
There was one episode that I fell asleep in my chair watching it.
It might have been that
I
one
was
then.
too lazy to go back, and it probably was that one.
But it happened twice during season 2. So as much as they keep playing this guy up as being like way powerful,
he's obviously not.
He's still like nowhere close, which kind of makes the ending of season 2 a little more understandable, in
Right,
the
because
sense
you
that,
wouldn't want him to meet, because there would be no, it would just he'd just fall
right,
over.
and as much as it didn't feel like a big deal, the literal monster that gets defeated at the end of season 2 is kind of a big
Yeah. Oh,
thing, but it's just not really played up that way.
right. Because there's some like huge S-class dudes who are like taking him on and not really, like the apprentice dude, the
Cyborg, yeah.
demon cyborg or whatever, throws everything he's got at this giant centipede monster, and it doesn't end up really doing anything. And then of course One Punch comes in. It just wrecks the guy's shit, and it's actually a cool scene where he like disintegrates all the way down the line of this like several kilometer long like centipede monster. It's pretty cool, but it still feels anticlimactic compared to like the end of season 1.
We're just probably gonna get to the end of season 3 and have the Monster King, and that will be or will it? Who knows? I did like the fighting, the tournament, the Kung Fu tournament.
Yeah, that harks back to almost some Dragon Ball, like early Dragon Ball days, where you got like the big stone, arena, and there's like some super strong fighters like the Yamchas and Tiens of the world. But then like when One Punch gets out there, he's just like literally punching them into the air once at like 0 power. It's like, and then the super strong fighter, like that match was kind of fun, but at the end of the day, like it's still no match at all for.
Yeah. It was fun how the guy kept like watching One Punch Man's matches though and be like, oh, well, if you're going to defeat everybody with just one move, I'll also defeat everybody with just one move. And yeah, it kind of keeps playing up, and it was fun.
But then when like the demons show up and start whooping that guy's ass, it's kind of crazy scene. It was some of the best parts about season 2 is that they're exploiting all these other characters, without really putting One Punch in there to like destroy things in one hit. Even though he totally is. It's that Superman problem I have with writing Superman comics is how far can you take a character that's literally omnipotent? Like it's, who knows? We'll see what they do. I'll continue watching. I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you finally making me watch that show, because it really was worth it. It's, if you haven't watched it, it's totally worth it.
It is a good one. I watched some of it back in the day, and it's kind of an older anime, but kind of in the same vein as like a DBZ, My Hero Academia, Fairy Tail, but just like that Shonen, however you say it, type manga. But Hunter x Hunter. And I really haven't watched, like I've watched maybe like the first 20 or so episodes back in the day, but it was pretty much impossible to find dubbed, only subbed, and I watched plenty of anime that's subbed, but for whatever reason I just had a hard time getting into this one with the sub. Like it was good, but I wanted to be able to multitask, which is always what it comes down to for me, especially when I'm watching really, really long sections of animes. I want to be able to multitask. So I finally got my hands on some on a dubbed version, and so I've started going through that again, which has been pretty fun. It's a good show,
They got 4 seasons of it on Netflix. I have it on my list.
but it's not dubbed,
try
is it?
I don't know. I haven't looked that far.
I'm pretty sure the Netflix one is only
Okay.
subbed. I might be wrong, but
Maybe that's why I didn't watch it, because it looks like I started at some point and then never got. Did you ever watch the Netflix series Seven Deadly Sins?
yes,
I really enjoyed that. That was
I at least watched the first season,
there's
and it
2
was
seasons,
really,
I
really good.
believe, and it was
Yeah, I don't think I watched the second one, but the first one's
quite
really
good. That's quite good. Again, I don't know if I'd put it up with some of these other ones, but it's up there if you're looking for an anime to watch, and it's some quick seasons. It's
I went back recently to try to I think I tried to pick up a season 2 or to rewatch part of season 1, and I found that the main chick character was super annoying.
yeah, for sure. The princess or whatever.
Selena, quit talking about my family.
The waitress slash princess girl. Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about? Yeah,
that's the one.
It's endearing, but it is annoying. But I don't know. It all plays for me. I'm okay with all of it. That's quite good. You mentioned Fairy Tale. I never got like super far.
I like Fairy Tale. I need to pick back up on that.
There's a lot of that, isn't there?
There is a lot, like 300 some odd episodes.
I want to say Netflix has the first 40 something. Yeah,
The first 48 is like the first
Yeah.
block or the first season.
and I've watched those, and they're good. It's good. It's not like
Yeah.
great, but it's good.
I've watched those and started watching the next section, but yeah, I've definitely not anywhere close to being fully watched on those. And I still need to go back and finish up the end of the Bleach series too.
Yeah, I lost track of that a long time ago. I tried to keep up with that it just got repetitive and weird, and just like now he's got masks and new, like, I don't know. To me, it got really repetitive.
What I should do is look up. I'm sure somebody's made a list of like the episodes that are just strictly the main story without the filler sections, because Bleach was one of those shows that was really, really hurt by the fact that like they caught up with the manga pretty quick, and at the point they caught up with it, they just started making filler sections. So like the first 50 episodes or so roughly like is really great, and then there's like a 60 episode section that's all just a side jaunt that is horrible. The plot is horrible, the writing is horrible, everything about it is just horrible. And I've been told by people, like when I first started watching Bleach, they were like, when you finish the main, like the next story, and they go into the side, just skip it. And I was like, no, I can watch. Like, I like anime. I'm gonna be
Right.
fine. I'm gonna watch all. And I got like halfway through, and I was just like, what did I do? Why didn't I listen to them? This is horrible. And
It is
the same thing
definitely
kind of
hard.
happens. Yeah, and the same thing kind of happens later on too. You get back to the main story, and then because at that point they've caught up, like you get like maybe 20 episodes of continuing the main story, and then suddenly you're back to like another 30 or 40 episodes of side story, and then like maybe like 10 episodes of like the main story, and then like 20 episodes of a filler story, and it's bad. The fillers are bad.
Yep.
They're the later ones aren't as bad as that first giant section, but like it's not good.
I feel like the last thing I watched in Bleach was, so it's the main girl that gives him the powers at the beginning of the show.
Mm.
Probably one of the best characters, but she is in trouble with the Heaven Samurai, whatever the hell they are, soul people, and she's like locked in a tower and like going to like trial, and they're like trying to break her out. That was like the last.
That's
place.
basically the end of the first main series
Okay.
or main section. So you made it almost through to the bad.
For the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And that was all pretty good. And maybe I watched some more after that. Maybe it turned into the garbage, which is why I don't remember it as much. But I remember that section, and that all the up to that was pretty decent. But it was just a slog to get through that in my mind. Like there was a lot of repetitive, like, I don't know, It's weird I say that because I
It,
love Dragon Ball Z and that gets super repetitive in some ways, but this I don't know if it was a faster cadence of like, oh, new angry guy with a sword. Like I don't know. It was just
I mean, it's definitely that style of show, so there is a lot of repetition in it, even when you're in the main parts. Especially that first section, like as I'm thinking, like it's not really a 50 episode long plot, but it's 50 episodes
right. They almost need like a Dragon Ball Z Kai like cut of
of
Bleach,
Bleach.
where it's like we're gonna condense all of this into like 20 episodes.
Yeah, that would be good. It's not a very well known or popular one, but never mind. Actually, never mind that.
Never mind that. We
Never
heard
mind.
nothing.
I do need to finish. The reason why I have not yet started Dragon Ball Super, I've seen like the movies, but or at least like the first two movies that are kind of the first two sections, if you will, of the show.
Sure.
But I haven't actually watched the Dragon Ball Super show, is because I am still waiting to actually watch the second season of Dragon Ball Kai in dub, which I've had it in sub for a while, but I want to watch it in dub, which I will do. But it's even though it's basically just the Boo saga, I still feel like it's a large chunk to dive into if you're not ready for.
I watched Dragon Ball Kai up through Cell Games.
Well, that was where the original
Yeah.
English dub stopped.
And that was enough. I don't need to watch Boo. I take that back. I would like to see Majin Vegeta again because that was some fun shit. I am pro team Vegeta all day long. He's my favorite. So it was kind of fun when he gets the Majin powers. It felt a little weird because he cheated a bit, which is
Yeah.
kind of outside of his character of just wanting to be the raw. But he did get that taste of like, this is how I could beat Kakarot, and he ends up being like, dude, off Majin. Like, I just need your power. Like it was kind of fun just to watch him just go crazy with power there for a little bit. Not that it ends up mattering at the end, but
Yeah, you're not wrong.
but that's all. I didn't care for the Buu saga a whole lot outside of Majin Vegeta.
It wasn't great, but it was. I mean, it's the end, and I think it was in the original series very, 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 very extended with a lot of just like filler, which is kind of why I won't want to watch it in Kai, is to see the non-filler version of it.
Is he gonna start with World Games or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. It starts with Gohan, the high schooler, in World Games,
Oh, good.
and
Get to see
it's
the Great Saiyan Man.
the Great Saiyaman, and it's condensed down to 61 episodes, whereas before it was probably like double that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it eventually.
Have you ever watched? It's on Netflix. It's called Love, Sex, and Robots.
You've told me about it, but I have not watched it.
So it's in the vein of anime since we're talking anime, but it's quite different. It's a bunch of short stories, and they range from like 9 minutes long to 20 minutes. Like they're different ranges. Like there's no theme. There, when you watch them, there'll be kind of a theme in your head, but they're
Mm-hmm.
really not thematic across of them. Other than they're very cyberpunky in a lot of regards, which is super fun for me. I highly recommend them. They're very adult. They're super mature, so 100% not kid friendly. But if anybody out there remembers Heavy Metal, it was a '80s animated movie.
Yeah.
Really kind of weird. Definitely mature, adult. You know, there's nudity, sex, violence, blood, gore. But it's a series of almost like short films that kind of get tied together into like one universe. And this has a lot. It takes a lot of hints from that, but it's more done in the style of like CG and anime, or CG anime in some regards. There's one live action short story, so each one is probably done by a different director, type of a thing, where they do it in a different art style. Some of it's straight up anime, some of it's CG, some of it's live action, but they're all great. There's one in particular I love where it's like a set of robots running through the dystopian Earth where humans used to exist, but they don't exist anymore. And one guy was talking about his mom used to be an Xbox with their robots, and that one has a super fun twist about cats in the end. I'll just leave it at that. So Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion Revenge is solid. I think we talked about that because I saw the trailer for it. You were the one that actually told me that, and I have not watched it yet. Is it out now? I'll have to.
And where is it out?
I'm sure it went straight to DVD or whatever, but release date was April 14th. Yeah, so it should be out. I will check that out this week. I was interested in watching it. I'm a sucker for Mortal Kombat stuff. That universe is great. I honestly love the first movie, which everybody hates, which is on Netflix. Not because it's good, but I was younger and I loved Mortal Kombat and I just liked that stuff. If I'm sure if I were to rewatch it now, I would be hypercritical of how terrible that movie is. But I do have a nostalgic love of the original.
Little nostalgia
Kombat.
for that one.
What was the guy that played Raiden? That dude was. He was in a bunch of stuff. I like that dude. Anyway, I will check that movie out and see if I can. Let's see, IMDb. Oh, that's a trailer. Do 1995, the glory days of movies.
95.
Oh, this is the wiki page. Wiki page is useless. Christopher Lambert, maybe that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, Christopher Lambert. He was Highlander. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. I'll check it out for next week. So Ryan, it's 11 o'clock. We weren't even sure we were going to do 2 hours tonight.
Yeah, we were talking about how we don't have anything to talk about.
And we just jibber jabbed about anime and movies and stuff. I don't have any comic books I've been reading. I haven't read any books. My reading recommendation will be Dune.
Do it.
Read that damn book. It is good. It is very good, actually. It's long.
It's not that long.
It's a pretty good sized book, but
if
it's worth
you read novels on any sort of regular
It's
basis,
fine.
especially sci-fi novels, it's not that long.
don't.
But it's not short.
I ended up listening to it anyway, so I don't know what I'm complaining about. Go read Dune, though. You definitely should.
It is a classic, and it is a good classic, which I feel like not all classics are that good. So,
And we will. And Ryan, you got anything you want to recommend the folks to do? Read?
go on a
Doesn't
hike.
have to be read. Go
Get
on hikes.
outside.
Get outside.
Do stuff. Also,
enjoy your
watch
lockdown.
lots of things. Everybody go watch Community because you're stuck at home and it's on Netflix now. Do it.
Is it? Maybe
Yeah.
I can actually watch it now.
Do it.
I mean, not that I didn't have access to it before, but maybe I'll do it. So, all right, folks. I think we're going to call it there. We did our 2 hours. Welcome to episode 9, 10. Is
What
this
this
10?
is?
This
10.
can't be
It might
10,
be
is
10.
it? Oh, my God.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't do anything special if it's 10. That's how good we are, folks.
We're so good we just play
We
it. We play it cool.
Yeah, we just bring it up.
What was
at the end
special
here.
is that you had an anniversary on the 10th one.
That's true. I did. So this would be on videos, load. So last one was 9. This would be 10. 420 blaze it. Happy anniversary,
Yeah.
wife. I love you. Yeah, episode. We did 10
Happy
episodes.
future wife to me one day. I love you, baby.
I love you, whoever you are. When I meet
Wherever
you.
you are in my life, whoever you are.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody stopping by. Thanks for chatting with us. We had technical difficulties. Were on the big time down trend. Really good.
No technical difficulties.
Very few technical difficulties. I would.
I
say.
believe that me pounding on my desk and yelling board games over and over was 90% of why we did not have technical difficulties.
Maybe we should start that. That's our mantra to start every episode going forward. Is we'll just yell board games into the microphone during the startup screen.
We should.
All right. So this will be on YouTube. I'll put it up this week. Hopefully, really, actually, this time. The last episode, if you want to watch it, is on YouTube. Skip the first 12 and a half minutes or so. There's a link in the bottom if you go watch the timestamps. Like, just skip the first 12 minutes and 50 seconds because it's a nightmare.
Unless you're really looking for a challenge, then listen to the first 12 minutes.
At the parts you can, and then there's just dead silence for several minutes. Like it's weird. It it all it's something with YouTube, and they were trying to remove some of the copyright music and some. I'm not going to get into it. And I don't have the time. Not that I don't know how to video edit stuff. I don't have the time to mess with it. I tried my hardest, but it's out. It's there. You can go watch it. The last part of the episode, Zoom was all messed up for us too on that one, so it doesn't look the same. It was a mess. But all the other episodes, all the previous 9 are up there. If you want to go through them, I'd love it if you stop by the YouTube channel and subscribed, liked, and
Click
comment,
the bell.
click the bell, all that kind of stuff. If you like what you're watching here and you aren't following me yet, go ahead and click that follow button. And if you really like it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are a Twitch, or I'm sorry, if you are an Amazon Prime member, you get that sub for free, and it gives us a couple little dollars in our pockets to buy lights and mics and just support the channel in general. So other
If
than
you're
that,
here and you support by subscribing, raise your hand.
I guess I do. It says I do.
I
I
don't.
don't know.
Do you subscribe to yourself?
My wife
I subscribe to
subscribes,
you,
so that
oh,
counts.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. There's social stuff down below in the panels. Also, if you're watching this later on YouTube, will be linked in the description below. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. What is that? The 4th. So we'll be next month already. We'll be out of this godforsaken month and hopefully out of quarantine.
Hopefully.
Cool. Is that what we got, Ryan?
That's what we got.
All right.
Good night, Internet.
Bye-bye, Internet. And we're